Hey, Kurt, another episode of PBT Extra. Let's just jump right into what everyone's talking about, the NBA play-in tournament. So what happened last night? Can you please walk us through how the play-in works?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward once you go through it. It's just different to everybody. Nobody's seen this before. We haven't done this during a regular season in this format. Pretty simple. In both conferences, the 7 plays the 8 seed. So Boston plays Washington. Boston wins. They advance. They are now the 7 seed in the East. They go on and face Brooklyn. Then 9 and 10 play. So you get, in this case, the Pacers getting the win. They move on. They advance. Everybody else is gone now. You're the 10 seed. You're out. Pacers advance. They take on the loser from that first game. So now it's Pacers-Washington playing one game only for the 8 seed. Winner advances. Loser goes to Cancun. So that's where it is. It's pretty straightforward. It's a little 3-game tournament, but it created a lot of energy at the end of the season, right? Teams A trying to avoid it and get up to the 6th seed, or trying to jockey within it a little bit. It did what the league wanted it to do. It created a lot of energy, excitement, and it made games at the end of the season meaningful. And we'll see what the ratings look like and how this goes, especially there's a big draw out west, but we'll see how this ultimately goes for the league. I think they're happy with it though. What they wanted, teams not tanking, meaningful games at the end of the season, they got.
The play-in games on the Eastern Conference weren't as exciting as we had hoped, but the building that you're talking about on the West, I mean, Lakers, Warriors.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, that's like a playoff matchup. You can't even wait for that. That's going to be a 1-game spectacular.
LeBron James versus Steph Curry. I'm not only curious to see the ratings, I'm just curious to see the game. I am curious to watch these two teams go at it look, they know each other. Players know each other. You're going to get these playoff matchups where, I expect them to completely go at Steph Curry, right? I'm going to drag him into pick and rolls against LeBron James because we know he can't cover him. Frankly, there's not the Warriors. Maybe biggest challenge in this game is they don't have Andre Iguodala anymore. They don't have anybody who matches up with LeBron James. Andrew Wiggins has been torched by him in the past. But I expect them to put Curry, make him work on both ends, then try to trap him, do their best on the other end, use KCP on him, who's been shockingly good over the years. But I think that this matchup is great. I mean, the Warriors have been on fire. Curry is an MVP candidate for a reason. Draymond Green has played spectacularly. Anthony Davis in this game. 2 big markets. It is going to be so much fun to watch this game. I mean, what are you looking forward to out of it?
I think, I mean, the only other team I would say is my San Antonio Spurs, who are going against the Grizzlies in 10-9. That's going to be the first matchup of the Western side. But obviously 7-8 Lakers Warriors, that's going to be, the creme de la creme of the play-in tournament. But let's just think about this from a zoomed out abstract perspective. Who does this benefit most and who does this hurt?
I'm not sure. It hurts maybe the Suns and the Jazz because they are probably going to get 2 really good teams but we'll see how it shakes out. But I expect ultimately in some form, the Lakers and Warriors will move on. By the way, TV executives, whoever wins the 7-8 game between the Lakers and Warriors, they're going to be TV executives lighting sage somewhere, trying to make sure that those teams, they need Curry and they need LeBron in the playoffs. With all due respect to your Spurs, who the TV executives want in this one. I think it's a risk for the Jazz and Suns. It's a little tough just because the way things shook out this year, those are really good teams at the bottom of the conference, right? There's no give me there. You're going to have to earn those victories, especially against whoever gets the Lakers. That is if LeBron's healthy and moving well, that's a contender.
I mean, they both those teams are the way that the Warriors are playing right now. But let's look back at the first play-in games that we saw. So Indiana, Charlotte, Indiana just ran away with it. I mean, Dougie McDermott had an unbelievable first quarter. What were your thoughts on the game last night?
I don't want to take anything away from the Pacers, who, like you said, they came prepared to play. Malcolm Brogdon went right at LaMelo at the start, right? They tried to set a tone. But Charlotte let's be honest, Charlotte was a young team that didn't look ready for postseason basketball. They didn't grasp. They were letting your boy Doug McDermott slide. They were going under or just not tracking him off pin downs. They were not mentally focused like you have to be. Every possession matters so much in a playoff game. And I can't believe they weren't prepared. I just think that they didn't grasp that this wasn't the difference between some Tuesday and February and this game in terms of it. It was kind of shocking to watch. And to your Pacers credit. I thought your Pacers looked fantastic. You've got to be happy with that.
Oh yeah, and you look at even you don't have to go back to February, Tuesday in February. Even last week, right? Look at the last games of the NBA season. Some teams look a little sluggish, and then you have to flip the switch. This is playoffs, win or go home. And Charlotte just seemed a little out of whack. They just seemed out of sync. And then the Indiana Pacers never held up, and it showed. It was almost at halftime. I was thinking to myself, do I even have to watch the rest of this game? It was almost painful to watch as a fan who loves basketball. I'm like, man, this is kind of tough. It's a tough showing, but the Pacers came out and did business, and I'm excited to see what they do against the Wizards in that setup. What did you think about the Wizards Celtics game?
Look, Jason Tatum was unbelievable, right? I mean, you have to start there with that 50-point performance and playing on both ends. He did play great defense against Russell Westbrook at points. Did it on both ends. But the other thing they got that they needed, I really think that their fortunes this playoffs and frankly for the next couple of years are somewhat tied to how Kemba Walker does. How healthy is he? How is he playing? He put up 29, not the most efficient 29, but he put up 29, made some big shots. They need that from him. They need him to be the second star because they, like you said, Jaylen Brown's on the sidelines bouncing around, frustrated clearly, but with the wrist surgery, he's not there, and they don't have Gordon Hayward anymore. There's been a talent drain on that Boston team, so they need Kemba to step up big, and it's a tall order going forward.
Yeah, the thing that I didn't understand because I love Boston on paper. We talked about this a million times. I think Jason Tatum is a legit superstar every single time. Ever since his debut in the playoffs a couple of years ago where his star was born, every year he just keeps getting better. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a legit franchise player in the NBA, one of the elite talents, 100%. But I just don't know what Boston team's going to show up. And even last night, you had a 50-point performance by Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker went off. We saw like Kemba playing vintage Kemba, right? Like really high-level Kemba. And still, it was only a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter with Russell Westbrook struggling from the floor and Bradley Beal under 20 points at the time. So I'm thinking to myself, how Jason Tatum has 41 points going into the fourth quarter and it's still within reach. How is this game not like the Indiana Pacers game? Like, how is it not a 20-point, 30-point game right now? And that is the question I have with Boston. I don't know what team I'm going to get over the course of a 7-game series. I'm not very confident. And then you also look interiorly. Like, I love Tristan Thompson. He was all over the place, very active. But think about some of those teams we're looking at. Brooklyn against the 76ers, against Joel Embiid. The Boston's interior presence is not as strong. No. And you got some nice bigs. Giannis over there as well. Like, what are you going to do with some of those guys interiorly? Tristan was around the rim, mostly poking things out, but he was always behind Robin Lopez. He didn't really have great position, and he wasn't able to finish around the rim a lot, but he was active. And I just don't know if that's going to be enough in the Eastern Conference when you look at the top seeds. I mean, some of those guys, I don't know. I feel like they're going to take advantage in the paint. Yeah,
it's just Brooklyn's such a tough matchup for them, period. I mean, for everybody, right? Because they're rolling out 3 superstars, but now without Jaylen Brown, who's arguably their best defender, or second best. I mean, they've got Marcus Smart, but without Jaylen Brown, it just becomes a tough matchup, right? To match up with Harden and Kyrie, and oh, by the way, Kevin Durant, who's a walking mismatch. There's no good answer there. So I think Boston can push them a little bit, but to me, that's just a tough matchup for them. I don't think they have like you said, you need an interior presence that can score a lot, I think, to exploit Brooklyn a little bit. Like, DeAndre Jordan's not in his prime anymore, and Claxton I like, but he's more a perimeter switchy guy. They don't have that Joel Embiid, Brook Lopez in the paint guy. I just don't know that the Celtics can take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm very, very interested to see what happens. But like I said, over the course of a 7-game series, I think Boston might I think it's a war of attrition. And with that team, I love them on paper. I'm telling you, Jason Tatum is one of my favorite players in the NBA. But I just don't understand what Boston team's going to show up. Are there any teams you think that could upset these teams from the play-in games? We talked about the Western Conference. Potentially.
The West, I think so. In the East, I just think the top 3. Well, I want to say the top 3 are separated. Miami versus Milwaukee is an interesting matchup. But in the West, I think yes. I don't think Golden State can knock off Utah. I probably can't knock off Phoenix either. So we'll see how they advance. But the Lakers are absolute contenders. And I'll tell you that in Los Angeles, the feeling is if they win the 7 seed, their path is easier. Remember, now they're going to get an untested Suns team that they believe they can beat in the first round. Second round, you get that 2-3 matchup or the 3-6 matchup, Denver or Portland. They think that they can win those series. They don't have to see the two other biggest powerhouses in the West, Utah and the Clippers, other side of the bracket. And so they think they've got an easier path to get to the conference finals. And by then, in theory, LeBron's healthy and moving, and the Lakers are the Lakers again. We'll see if that goes. That's the best laid plans, man. Sometimes that does not work out like you want, but that's the thinking in Los Angeles. That not only did they, if they can get by Golden State, and that's no gimme, obviously, no gimme at all. Their path is better than if they'd landed in a different spot.
And I was just recently doing some film study on the 90s in the NBA. You look at the Houston Rockets, right? Back-to-back champions, and they were what, a 6th seed going in on that second run. Everyone counted them out as well. And then at the very end, what did Rudy Tomjanovich say? Never underestimate the heart of a champion. And I really do think that with this Lakers team, everyone's counted them out. They're sitting at 7. And look, I mean, arrested LeBron, if he is rested, that's like a big if, like we talked about. But I have no doubt he takes care of his body better than anybody else in the league. Anthony Davis will rise to the occasion. Lately, he's kind of been finding his groove. We're starting to see flashes of, oh man, that's Anthony. And other times we're like, okay, is he still figuring it out? He's going to figure it out. He's Anthony Davis in the playoffs. So I'm telling you, that Lakers team is going to surprise some people, and it might be a repeat of what we saw in '95, with the Houston Rockets.
It is not out of the question that they go all the way through, and the Clippers tanked hard to get on the other side of that bracket. They worked hard to make sure they were on the other side of the bracket, but that could set up that conference finals that we thought we were going to get last year. The hallway series in Los Angeles. We'll see if that comes together. Both of those teams have got a little something to prove, but they've set that up. And if you told me those are still the two, with all due respect to Utah, those are still the two best playoff built teams in the West.
And the Spurs.
And the Spurs. And the Spurs. Sorry, I got the Spurs.
Like I said, black and silver runs through the veins. But let's talk about those two teams at the top that are almost perennially disrespected at this point.
Yes.
It's Utah and Suns. They've been playing unbelievable 52, 51 wins this season in what we call the gauntlet in the West. Can you just please walk me through best case scenarios for both Utah and for Phoenix? And worst case scenarios as far as matchups are concerned?
I think best case scenario for Phoenix is, Utah, they have to feel like they can beat anybody. I think both Phoenix and Utah would rather face Golden State than the Lakers. Like, just Golden State with they've got an MVP in Steph Curry, Draymond Green. That is beyond that, their depth with Andrew Wiggins. This is just not a championship level team, right? This is not a team that is a threat to win the title, and you can adjust over the course of a series and throw everything, throw the kitchen sink, basically. You're going to start. Don't you think Steph Curry by game 2 is getting like the James Harden? We're just doubling him at midcourt. Like, don't let him beat us treatment, right? But I think there's things you can do against them, and they can't hurt you as much. The Lakers, look, you just don't want to see them. That isn't, like you said, that is an absolute title contender. And that's a rough matchup for either of them in the first round. So I think that's the worst case scenario. For the best case scenario for them, you get Phoenix or you get Golden State, you get past them. And then for Utah, you're going to have to beat the Clippers. You're going to have to beat the Lakers. There's no gimmies in the West once you get to the second round and beyond. So there's no easy path. But I think if you're the Suns, that's your hope, right? You're the 2 seed, you get the 3 seed. Maybe you can knock off. You should be, if you get Portland versus Denver or winner, you think you can get through that. So I think that's avoiding. Look, it's simply like avoiding the Lakers is really everybody's goal.
Yeah, I would definitely say Luka as well. You never want to mess with playoff Luka.
Yeah,
he's dangerous. So I think once again in the course of a 7-game series, I don't know if the Mavs can match up, but you never want to underestimate Luka. What he did last year was phenomenal, and he's only going to get better. Same with Steph Curry. The thing that I see if they end up going and getting that 8th seed, when they look at the Jazz, what is the answer for Rudy Gobert? The answer is nothing. And Rudy Gobert, when we see him dominate in the paint, it's 2020. Like those games are 20 boards, 20 rebounds, high pick and roll with Mike Conley. There's nothing you can do if you're not ready. And I think even though Steph Curry's playing at a very high level, and I know he can do it for the course of a 7-game series, but the rest of the team, can they shore up the defenses just a little bit to keep them in contention? I mean, I just think Rudy Gobert would have a field day with that Warriors team.
Yeah, I agree. They don't. I would say they're Wiseman is out for the year, but frankly, they're a little better without Wiseman. Wiseman was still a rookie. Like, there's a lot of promise there, but he was still making rookie mistakes out there. But Kevon Looney, with all due respect, is just not. They're just not going to be able to contain Gobert. I like Utah. I'm with you. I like Utah in that matchup. And then, like I said, second round on, there's no gimmies. You're going to be playing a good team in the West. You're just going to have to go through somebody. Yes,
and then with the Phoenix Suns, like we talked about, I mean, I'm curious to just see what Devin Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton put out there, because like I said, I don't really know much about this team, and I feel like I've watched them all season, and I still don't know. I want to know what playoff Phoenix looks like. Coach Monty Williams has done a great, amazing job, Coach of the Year with that team, but it's funny to me how they're sitting at 2 and they still feel very much like underdogs. It's almost like the Lakers, the Clippers. And then you think maybe Utah and then Phoenix, which is it's a weird feeling. And I think that's going to give them an extra chip on their shoulders and give them a little bit of protection, because I don't think a lot of people expect them to roll, through the Western Conference. So they still have that underdog mentality, but they're sitting pretty at 2.
No, I'm with you. I think that I think we're selling them a little, and I've been guilty of this. I'm selling them a little bit short. I think that they're, especially against the Lakers, they wouldn't be the favorite. I think they probably should be against Golden State, if that's how the matchup shakes out. But I don't think we're going to get a Hornets performance from them. Like, I think Chris Paul is
absolutely
going to have Devin Booker ready. He's going to have DeAndre Ayton ready. It's just, I am a big believer that there is a certain amount of rite of passage, that you just kind of have to learn how to win in the NBA, in the playoffs, and adjust to postseason basketball. And you can take that knowledge from, if you're LeBron is a good example, you can take it from Miami to Cleveland to Los Angeles and win along the way. But at some point you have to have paid the dues to learn that. And I think that's where Phoenix is this year. I think this is a dues paying postseason for them, for a team on the rise. I like where they're headed, but this might be a rough offseason or a rough postseason.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited to see. I'm not going to count them out just yet, but let's move on to the Eastern Conference, where you're looking at the 76ers and the Nets at the top of the Eastern Conference. What's best case, worst case matchups for them?
Honestly, I don't know that it matters for either of them, to be honest with you. I think that they should be able to handle whoever they get. Obviously Brooklyn gets Boston. That's a little bit of a challenge, because we talked about how great Jason Tatum is. Jason Tatum is going to make plays on both ends. Kemba Walker can be a problem, but Kyrie's a really good defender, a playoff defender. Like, I just don't think – I think there's a separation there. I think the one in the East that I find interesting is more the 3-6. It's
Bucks Heat.
Bucks Heat. This is my favorite first-round series, to be honest with you, because, all right, Milwaukee, you say you're better. Drew Holiday – you've got Drew Holiday. He changes things for you on offense. He's, obviously a big, better shooter, better shot creator than you had with Eric Bledsoe. You got PJ Tucker. You've tried switching defenses. You've set everything up. Well, by the way, here are all your demons on a plate from last season. Like everything that went wrong. Here's the team that knocked you out. And by the way, playing very well. Jimmy Butler has found his groove of late. And this is a team that has been one of the best down the stretch in the NBA. That's a dangerous Miami team. The Bucks are better. The Bucks should win, but do they have the mental block? Like, have they gotten past the mental hurdle? Because I think that they are just getting hit with it in the first game, and that's what I find interesting. How do they respond? What happens with a little adversity in this series? Is this team really different? I think we're going to find out quickly.
Yeah, what is the way to acknowledge your fears? You got to address them, right, head on. And I love that. It's first round. Let's just get out of the way. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's run through the wall. But it does remind me of the journey to gold right now in the Tokyo Olympics. So you have this idea of the track races leading up into Olympic trials. When do you peak? Can you peak at the right time? Are you going to run a world record time in April when you need to be running your fastest in June and July? See what I'm saying? And I think that's the question with the Heat, is you're starting to see them like a runner who said, okay, I want to just make sure I'm posting okay times, but every meet I'm going to get a little faster. You saw them kind of struggle in the beginning of the season. We were like, is this the same Heat team that went, all the way to the final? And then you start seeing them getting better and better and better. And now they look dangerous. It's a, 40-win season. Whereas a couple months ago, we would have thought almost wrote them off. So this is one of those teams that are peaking at the right time, and we'll see just how far they go.
They were one of the teams hit hardest by COVID, hit hardest by health issues over the course of the campaign. And they got healthy and got, like you said, just found their stride at the right time. And again, Milwaukee is the better team. They should win this series, but I just love that they've got the Bucks have to face their mental hurdles in game one, series one.
And then the only other team before I let you go, Kurt, Knicks and Hawks, the 4-5 matchup. What are your thoughts?
I think this is fun. Aren't both teams just kind of playing with house money? Like they're happy. I don't want to say they're happy to be there because one of them gets to advance and ultimately face probably the Sixers. And it's a fascinating matchup in some ways, but I feel like this is the feel good series. Like this is going to be an entertaining, fun series. I think Atlanta's a more talented team, don't you? I mean, I think,
100%.
Yeah. I mean, Trae Young, John Collins, and then I think Clint Capella. Clint Capella had a really good defensive year. That said, in their matchups this year, Julius Randle bludgeoned them. He put up huge numbers. They're going to have to slow him. I think my question with New York, and it's sort of my question with Atlanta, I think the question for the series is simply, all right, we're going to take away your best option because that's what you can do in the playoffs over 7 games, right? Like I can gear up to slow down Julius Randle. I can gear up to make life difficult for Trae Young. How's your second option going to step up? Who is your number 2? Who's your number 3? Because the best teams have got to be able to score in multiple different ways. Can the Knicks do that? I'm not sold. But they've been so gritty all year that I don't want to count them out.
Yeah, I think Julius Randle is probably better suited to do that because Julius Randle has shown his ability to share the ball and involve other people. But I just don't think this Knicks team plays so young, and I think they'll beat themselves over the course of 7 games. I've watched them play a ton this year, and they just make mental mistakes, just mental lapses. At sometimes critical moments, other times it's just just turn the ball over just because, or an inbound play just went terribly wrong, or a defensive alignment. It's just all these things that attention to detail. Maybe we can fix that, but it was never really addressed going into the playoffs. So I'm curious to see if they can outlast over a 7-game series. But as far as Julius Randle being able to evolve everyone else around him, I'm 100% confident in that ability. I think Trae Young's Hawks are going to be an interesting I think this will be Trae Young's time to have a Luka moment, right? Or have a Donovan Mitchell moment. This is the stage. You are fun to watch, but this is the time to show everyone you're a superstar. You want to be a superstar. This is where superstars are made, in the playoffs. So if he can be the guy who has a brilliant series and then show you really push them through this first round and into the second round and have some nice numbers, then I think we might see a star being born. But right now, this is up to Trae Young to prove that. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not convinced because I haven't seen it. So we'll see.
We'll see. He's also going to get tested on both ends. You're going to go right at him. I'm going to draw him into every pick and roll. I'm going to make him work on defense. That's not his strength. And he gets targeted some with that during the regular season, but he's seen nothing like what's coming his way. I agree. I think he can step forward. It's going to be a fascinating series. Like I said, I think it's a fun X's and O's kind of series. The Hawks, I like the Hawks with just more talent. I think they move on, but we'll see. You said it. I'll see if the Knicks beat themselves or if this is I think that's a good way of putting it. Like if they play young and just they make the kind of plays that are just taking years off Thibodeau's life in the playoffs, right? All of New York. Yeah, all of New York. Or if they're learning some lessons, we'll find out.